Welcome to Just Be Love. This week we have a special guest for you.
We have Hollie Taylor from Joy Radio, 1016 Entertainment, and podcasting. Oh, Hollie, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh, this is exciting. It's so good to have you on the show, and we're just really hopeful that people will be encouraged and motivated by our time together today.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. So start by sharing a little bit with us and our viewers a little bit about yourself. Who is Hollie?
Who am I? I am a daughter of God. I am an Albertan at heart, though I do reside in Ontario now. A wife, a mom to two beautiful little girls, and I am a communicator. I have had the incredible opportunity of just being a connector as well and using communication, radio, and linking the worlds together. It has been a wonderful opportunity just to express in tangible ways some of the talents God has given me.
Oh, that's like amazing, right? Like, isn't it great to just live in your purpose and your identity and how you feel God destined you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to find the sweet spot, but sometimes it can be challenging to get to.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's so true.
And I'm sure you're quite busy too with two kids, and so it sounds like you're a very busy lady.
Yes. I'm also a dance mom, so that just says it all.
Oh, that just added a whole new level right there.
It did.
So, Hollie, as you know, on this show, we love to talk about the love of God and what does that look like in our everyday life? And everyone has a story. We all have a story. We all have a testimony. And on this show, we love to highlight beautiful people like yourself and just hear about their story, their journey with God, and how does it look like on a practical level on everyday life. So why don't you share a little bit about that with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if we're talking about the love of God and how I've seen that in my life, I feel like it's always been there. From the moment that I came into this world. I am mixed, and so just my very existence was such a beautiful relationship between different backgrounds, different cultures, and so it's always been really cool exploring just the many parts that make up not just my family heritage, but now my family moving forward. And I've seen God just walking with me in a lot of ways, and sometimes it's felt like I've been alone or I have had massive hills to try to climb. But even in those valleys, I have still felt God there. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways, especially over this most recent season of my life, where my family moved from Alberta to Ontario, which is a massive move. And one that definitely had some hurdles. It was still one of those seasons where even though it was frustrating, it felt like there were things that were in our way that were stopping us from reaching some of our ultimate goals. I still felt in my heart that God was there. Had a wonderful moment where God just said, Hollie, I've got you. And I've really held on to that.
That is so good.
Yeah, that's so good. Hollie, you remember the verse in Joshua where he's challenged by God? You remember that? And I think it's really hard to think about that verse without thinking about previously what happened through Moses and just a reluctance to move on to what God had for them. And I feel like sometimes we all just come to that place of, are we going to trust God? Are we going to trust God through this open door in front of us, or are we just going to stop? And we all know what happened, unfortunately, with Moses when the people just weren't willing to trust God because they weren't seeing it from a spiritual standpoint. They were just seeing it from a mechanical, physical, logical standpoint. How did that play out in your story, in your journey, maybe coming to that why in the road? God, do I trust you?
I think to date, the biggest one would have been the move. I had a lovely, comfortable life in Alberta. I had a morning show gig at the Christian station in Edmonton. I had 1016 that was doing well, and my team was growing. And then the opportunity came to move to Ontario to be station manager at Joy Radio. And it was a moment where, do I give up what's comfortable, what feels safe, when I don't know what am I trading it for, right? Like, I know what I have now, what lies ahead, a lot of uncertainty, going into a massive move with my family during a pandemic, which I do not give any stars out of 5. Like, I do not advise. It was challenging, but you get that fork in the road and you're like, okay, if I reference what happened to the Israelites, where God said, hey, I'm walking with you. And it just, from like an outsider's perspective, seems so obvious. Like, he provided them physically with food, with shelter. And yet, if they have all of that, how did they not see that God was with them? He wasn't, providing for me and my family in that way, but I had to trust that, this is comfortable, this feels safe. But as a Christ follower, it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that our life will be easy and our life will always feel safe. And so I just felt, between me and my husband, let's make the move. Let's trust God. And again, it's been tough, but he has been with us, and feeling that and seeing the growth in our family is absolutely worth experiencing this, because you can impact and relate to people on a completely different level that I would not have been able to even 2-3 years ago.
Sometimes it's scary to look at the unknown, and you certainly came up against that. I mean, we get comfortable in life, right, Hollie? I mean, right? But how do we grow in a place of comfort? And I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling comfortable where we're at, but I know that God also moves us from season to season and level to level. And sometimes that pulls us out of our comfort zone, right?
It's very interesting, because every person that we have, we have conversations with, that we're asked of the Lord to, let go of their comfort zone and just push through and obey and what God is asking of them, because we know that God is not really in the business of being comfortable.
Unfortunately.
God, allow us to be comfortable. Wow.
And it's like you're pushing through because you're letting go of your comfort zone. You push through, you say, okay, God, I'm going to do what you're asking to do. Then you get to the other side. You move, let's say in your example, you move somewheres and you're like, okay, that was the big push. No, once you get there, it's still difficult, because you have to get used to a whole new environment, and there's still some more pushing through to do. Did you find that as well?
Oh, for sure. It was, is the hard part over yet? How about now? How about now? But it's going through the hard, the difficult seasons that allows you to really push your own limits, to see God make up your deficit until you're strong enough to continue to move ahead. And so I feel like sometimes those valleys, those hard times, those obstacles can be such a blessing when it comes to your relationship with God. Just looking at my own life, having a house to me symbolizes stability, security, and to move to Ontario when all the prices were going through the roof, and just seeing that, oh, we can afford a house now. 2 weeks later, oh, that house just sold for $100,000 more than the asking price. What's happening here? And to have to trust God in those seasons. So by surrendering and opening up our hands, releasing the things that gave us security, forces us to rely on God for our security. It forces us to look at life in a different kind of way. That is, in my opinion, difficult, but a healthy thing to do. You don't ever want to be stagnant or complacent. Comfortable is okay, but when it turns into complacency, that's when you need to be asking yourself, what am I not hearing from God to be doing right now with my life?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
That's really good.
That's very good.
That's really good. And, when we think about just the sheer power and strength we get from just trusting Holy Spirit just to come and do what he will. I mean, isn't that what happens, Hollie, when we truly come into the place of understanding our purpose and identity? And sometimes it's through those struggles. Sometimes it's like not knowing what's on the other side of that door, right?
Yeah, 100%. And we've been going through for our nighttime devotions with the girls, the Old Testament, which honestly, I kind of ignored. I just kind of read through it. I would focus in on the red letters and the New Testament and Jesus. But time and time and time again, the Israelites ignore God, ignore his messages that he was actually delivering from prophets. And when they did do what God asked them to do, he moved mountains. He would wipe out the obstacles on their behalf. And all they had to do was just sit in his presence. So the hardest thing to do is trust. Sometimes we think it's the action because that's physically relying on ourselves. But sometimes just sitting there and saying, God said he will do this. I will do what he asks me to do.
That's so good.
And how do we navigate that? How do we navigate that when we know that Jesus promised we will go through hard times, right? There was no promise that life's going to be easy. The promise was that he would always be with us, right?
Exactly. And that's what gives us the comfort.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I think even Martine and I, we talk a lot about just being led by the peace of God. So when we feel God leading us into a new season or so on, I mean, understanding, hearing, and feeling all those great touch points of just, Holy Spirit, I know you're here. I can feel your peace, and I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, you just know Holy Spirit walks up on the scene, and you know this is where you're supposed to be. And I'm sure you've encountered that in your journey.
Yeah, it's those moments where you think, this doesn't make sense. I shouldn't be feeling this kind of peace with what I am seeing happening around me.
Right. No, that's so good. So obviously, you like you said, you're a podcaster as well. You must have an opportunity to encourage people. Like what type of content and topics are you talking about right now through your podcast?
Yeah, the podcast is called Why Me Project, and I have the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting with Johnny Rocket. And every week we have new guests. We get a chance to hear their stories. And I mean, the name says it all, why me moments, because everyone goes through those seasons where you ask God, why me? It could be in a valley where things aren't going well and you're just in that posture of pity and you're thinking, why me, God? Why do I have to do this? Or it can be on the mountaintop where you are just humbled that God chose you to be the one to act that out. Because God doesn't need us. He wants us, and he wants us to be able to do what he's called us to do. And so that's what we get to do. We get to dive into the why me moments of our wonderful guests. We have covered topics, and ironically enough, a lot as of late about suicide and mental health. We have had conversations about the loss of a child. So diving into grief. Also, when you feel burnt out, we've just had so many incredible guests lately, just talking about their lows or their high moments, but all from that perspective of God still walks with us no matter what season we're in.
And identifying God in the process.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
That's so good.
Yeah. That's really good, Hollie, and it's great to hear that you're having such an impact. And I'm sure it's a lot of fun with your co-host, right?
Yeah, we've actually worked together for 20 plus years, 10 and a half as morning show co-hosts together. And so we've grown up together. We have a blast. This podcast was an opportunity for us to have a further extension of what we were doing on the morning show. And it's also given us a chance to keep working together, even though he's in Alberta and I'm in Ontario. And we get to share people's stories and encourage people along the way.
No, that's so good.
That's beautiful.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Now, I have a story of my own, Hollie. Okay. Now,
I'm not sure what he's going to share. So
it's about Hollie and Martine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, some of our viewers are probably familiar with Martine's music, just maybe. And recently, Martine received nomination for Country Artist of the Year for her song Always, and Country Song of the Year for her song Always from the Gospel Music Awards at the Covenant Awards. But, you know, we see the artists out in front, but we don't necessarily always realize the people in the background that are helping to make that happen. And in comes 1016 Entertainment, Hollie, Loretta, and you guys were just absolutely amazing behind the scenes and really helping to get that music into the hands, the ears, right? The minds of people, just to inspire them. Tell us a bit about that, Hollie.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew 10:16 was the verse that inspired our name, 10:16 Entertainment. For I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. Be as innocent as doves, be as shrewd as snakes. And when I read that verse, I thought, oh, that sounds like the music industry. And thus, our radio tracking company was born.
You're
And so it
right
started,
on.
right? So
Sorry.
so I started the company as just a way of bringing radio tracking promotions to Christian stations in a different kind of way, utilizing some of the mainstream techniques that I had used. And then when I had my daughters during my mat leave, Loretta, who is someone who actually went before me with radio tracking promotions at the company that I eventually worked at before 1016 started. And so she jumped on board. And now Robin Rosty's a part of our team too, doing marketing and promotions, PR. So it's been incredible just seeing the growth, but we just really wanted to help artists make that bridge between their music and radio stations to help them expand their territory in a different way. There's lots of ways of getting your music out there, and sometimes radio can be the one that seems the most difficult. And so we're just there to support artists and to help them on their journey. If it's a good fit for radio, we're happy to team up with them and see what we can get happening on the airwaves.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
You ever hear like really great testimonies, maybe from people from the radio side or from the artist side, just on how God is impacting people's lives? Like, do you get to hear that as well, even though you're in the background, Hollie?
Not always, actually. So hopefully our artists start sharing a little bit more, because I know that there is incredible things happening. I guess we're just really nose to the grind, focusing in on how we can support those artists as best to our abilities. And yeah, we don't always get to hear the end results. So, yeah, we'll just consider that a jewel in our crown, in the in the afterlife.
That's so true. Like, it's true, because in life there's so many times that we do what God has asked us to do, but we don't get to see the results. We're just obedient, and sometimes we'll hear testimonies, or people will write us and say, hey, I really enjoyed this or whatever, even my music, but you don't always hear the results of what, the effects of what you're doing. And we'll know once we get to the other side, for sure. So that should be interesting. But yeah, for sure, Hollie, 1016, I know that, you're having an impact across Canada, and hopefully it's going to expand far beyond the borders of this nation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's really the process of the seed, Hollie, right? Some people, they recognize the seed, they plant the seed, others come and water the seed, and others harvest the seed. And not all of us get to harvest every seed. So we don't necessarily see the end result all the time, like Martine was saying. But I mean, just being a part of the process means you're actually doing something, right? You're kingdom building, you're expanding the gospel. And I think that's the most important, is just, God, am I where I'm supposed to be? And am I serving in how I'm supposed to be serving, right? Am I having an impact in the lives of others, or am I just solely focused on myself and my own needs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, too, that's why I love radio and taking the opportunity here to be at Joy Radio. I mean, we, through the programming, have been able to reach people, and we'll never know their stories. But prayerfully, through the music, through our programming, people will just continue to have their hearts encouraged, that they'll be able to grow in their faith. And that's why I chose Christian radio from day one, just the incredible impact that it has across our nation and internationally as well.
That's so good. Now, Hollie, when we're listening to radio, it sounds so put together, so professional. But when those mics go off, you guys are having quite the party, aren't you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Depends on the day and how much work is happening.
Voices are just wow, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
that's
movie track or something.
seriously, we always think, oh, we should have been recording this, and we could release like the B-roll of what's happening after or between, or especially live
I think
radio.
every radio station needs a camera, Hollie, just so we can see exactly what's going on in the studio. What do you think?
I don't know, because my dance moves are pretty scary. So it's for your protection, so not mine, that we have no cameras at this point.
So that is so good. Well, listen, Hollie, we're just going to be wrapping things up here shortly, and I'm sure that our viewers have appreciated just hearing your heart,
Yes.
and they're encouraged. If they want to learn more about what you're doing, what are some ways that they could visit you online and check out
Yeah.
what you're up to?
For sure. For radio, you can go to joyradio.ca. We stream there as well, so you can check out my program. It's called Good Company, and it runs Monday through Friday from 5 till 6. And that would be Eastern Standard Time. And then also on that site, you can find the link to the podcast as well, Why Me Project. And then for 1016 Entertainment, just go to 1016entertainment.com. It's TEN, the number 16 Entertainment.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Hollie, today. We've enjoyed our time, and I know that our listeners will love it too. So
Thank you
Take
guys
care.
so much.
All right. See you,
bye-bye.
Hollie.
Well, that was so good hearing from Hollie, having her on the show. I think, we're probably going to do a lot more of that, and just having different people from different backgrounds come and just share their story. I think the power of her story is so unique, and it's so biblical, right? Like, people can't argue with your testimony and what God's doing in your life.
I really particularly like the part where Hollie shares about the comfort zone, because that's something that all of us, we struggle with. We like to be comfortable. We like to be in a place that is familiar to us. And to leave that is difficult. But we must push through and obey God, because it's worth it. It's worth every single minute. And, I don't know about you or you, but if the Lord is asked, well, not if, when the Lord asks you something and you obey, He always gives you something to hang on to, even in the hard times. For example, when we moved to Ontario, that was a hard move for us as well. And I feel like the older you get, the harder it becomes to move, I guess, because your roots are deeper. But when we moved, the Lord gave us, the house that He gave us has been like a sanctuary for us. And every single morning, I'm not lying to you, every single morning I wake up and I say, thank you, Lord, for the home that you have provided us.
Let's just say it's a lot more home than we need. It wasn't what we were looking for, and it's just such a God story.
Just God's
and how it
provision.
came
Yes,
about.
God's provision has been amazing, and He gives us what we need. He gives us what we need, and He gives us, He knows what we need coming down the line too in the future. And so sometimes He gives us something and we're like, oh, why do we need that right now? It's because He knows what's coming up. So I don't know who that's for today. I just want to encourage you, if the Lord is asking you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, it's worth it. Push through, do it. Listen to that voice that you're hearing and just go for it. Even though it's scary,
Remember,
God's got you.
God will go above and beyond too, right? Like, He'll take our measure of faith. And I mean, when God's in it, who can stop it, right? Also want to mention, if God is working in your life, you'd like to share a story or a testimony with us, you can connect with us. Send us an email, justbelove.co. So justbelove.co@gmail.com. And we'd love to interact with you, or you can find us on social media at, I think our handle's justbelove.
Justbelove.ca.
That's our website.
Yep.
And our handle on social media is justbelove, no
That's right.
spaces.
That's right.
No spaces, justbelove.
Yeah.
So this has been really great. I think Martine's going to wrap it up, and she just wants to sing over you today and allow you to worship with her. And so this is really, really great to have you journey with us on this new show, Just Be Love. And remember, it's God's love at work in our everyday lives. That's Just Be Love.